Hello Year 8 and welcome back to Geography after half term. You're starting a new topic of Africa this week and we're kicking off with a slightly different lesson to usual. You are going to be doing a bit of an investigation. So your learning journey today is all about this investigation and the title is The Man Who Fell to Earth. So the first thing that you're going to do is make a prediction as to how the man arrived in London. Then you're going to gather and analyse some evidence to understand what happened. And lastly, you're going to use push and pull factors to explain this man's story. And for this lesson today, you are going to need pen and paper, a whiteboard and a whiteboard pen, YouTube to be able to view this video, and the Word document which is on class charts and which is titled Investigation Questions. So, first thing that I want you to do, on your whiteboard, whilst you're watching the first part of this video, for the developing task, I'd like you to note down 3 things that you find out about the case, about what has happened. For the secure task, I want you to note down 3 things that might help you to find out what happened to the man that is shown in the video. And for the master task, you need to complete the secure activity and then explain one of your 3 things in a sentence. So we're going to watch the first part of the video now.
At approximately 7:45 I heard a thud and I thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. And the next thing I can remember is my brother said to me, Claire, he said, you need to wake up. He said, there's a man in the street and he's dead.
He was a black guy wearing a pair of sneakers, jeans and just a t-shirt and a hoodie, laying face down. It was a shock, obviously, because we thought he had been murdered then.
His body had twisted and his head had split open.
Hello, police emergency.
Hello, we've just been on to church down Portman Avenue in Mortlake, and we've come across what looks like a dead body.
Okay, whereabouts do you think this is?
It's outside number 22.
Okay, now that you have some information about this case, I would like you to make a prediction as to what you think has happened. So predict what you think has led to this man ending up in this condition in this particular part of London. And I want you to write that down. It can just be a sentence on your whiteboard underneath the notes that you have already made. So can you pause the video and do that now for me, please? Now, the next part of the lesson is you gathering some more evidence and analysing the evidence to try and work out exactly what has happened. So if you go on to class charts, you will see a Word document which is titled Investigation Questions. If you open that Word document up, while you're watching the next part of the video, I would like you to answer the questions to gather more evidence in your investigation. So there are a mixture of developing, secure and mastered questions, and they're also divided up into 2 parts. So the first questions, 1 to 6, you're going to answer now in the next part of the video. Then we're going to pause it, and then questions 7 to 10 you can answer using the next part of the video. I'm going to play the video again from the beginning because some of the questions that you need to answer, the answers have already been mentioned. Okay, so focus on that first set of questions, 1 to 6.
At approximately 7:45 I heard a thud and I thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. And the next thing I can remember is my brother said to me, Claire, he said, you need to wake up. He said, there's a man in the street and he's dead.
He was a black guy wearing a pair of sneakers, jeans and just a t-shirt and a hoodie, laying face down. It was a shock, obviously, because we thought he had been murdered then.
His body had twisted and his head had split open.
Hello, police emergency.
Hello, we've just been on to church down Portman Avenue in Mortlake, and we've come across what looks like a dead body.
Okay, whereabouts do you think this is?
It's outside number 22.
This gentleman looked to me like he'd been hit extremely hard, and I thought more likely this was a road traffic accident. But then it was a quiet residential street.
What was started out as a crime scene that looked like the guy had been murdered, I noticed they kept looking up at the sky.
The way it looked like he'd fallen from a very long way.
I think one of the uniformed officers said, well, you know this has happened before in the past. A stowaway fell from a flight onto a car park, I think it was Homebase in Richmond. And then a few of us just all looked up and thought, hang on a minute, this guy has fallen from an aircraft.
So I've just paused the video there because I want you to think about whether or not your prediction was correct. The detective has just told us that the reason why this man's body was found in this location in London was because sadly he had fallen out of an aircraft where he had been stowed away, i.e. People didn't know that he was there, essentially. So it explains now in the video exactly how that will have happened and what he would have had to do in order to stow away in the first place. So I now want you to be thinking about those second set of questions, questions 7 to 10, that are on your question sheet while you watch the next part of the video.
What became clear was that aircraft had come from Angola. This man had stowed away in the undercarriage just before takeoff, and then as the plane flew over this street on approach to landing, that's the point at which the wheels were lowered and he fell. The question was why he took such an extraordinary risk, and of course who he was, because the only clues to his identity were a mobile phone and SIM card tucked inside the pocket of his trousers.
He had Angolan and Botswanan currency in his pocket. The phone was from a provider called Airtel, and I think another one from Movicell, so it was all a little bit conflicting, but certainly pointing to Africa.
I've been a coroner in West London for nearly 14 years and have dealt with 5 or 6 similar cases of stowaways falling from aircraft. We are under the flight path at Heathrow, so sadly I expect we may see more in the future.
The breakthrough was the data on the SIM card that was in his pocket. It included information about a text message, but the interesting thing was the text message was sent to a mobile phone that was registered in Switzerland. I tried calling the number, I didn't hear anything back. Then out of the blue one day, one evening, that number appeared on my mobile phone as an incoming call.
The policeman on the phone told me that there was a stowaway and that this person, unknown person, had fallen from the plane in Richmond. At first I didn't really know what he was talking about.
Then all of a sudden, with her, the penny dropped, and there was a total change in her demeanour. She got very upset.
I told him, I know who it is. I know who it is. I cried on the phone to the policeman. I was in shock, complete shock.
Without any prompting, she said, oh, well, he's got a tattoo on his arm. It says a Z and a G.
The Z stood for Zuze, and that's how his mum used to call him. So it was Jose, but she used to call him Zuze. He was given a name, which was Aba. I guess in our alphabet, it's written with a G.
I've paused the video there. You are going to watch the rest of the video, but before we do that, we're going to think about push and pull factors to help us understand why the man might have made such a dangerous decision to stow away on the inside of an aeroplane in order to reach the UK. When we're talking about migration, which just means people moving from one place to another or one country to another, it's really useful to think about push and pull factors because they can help us to understand the kinds of things that might have influenced a person's decision to move in the first place. So push factors are things that make a person want to leave an area, so reasons why they want to leave the area where they are currently living. Whereas pull factors are things that might attract a person to move in to a particular area. So something that has attracted a person to move to a different location. And based on that then, push factors tend to be negative things, whereas pull factors tend to be positive things. So as a couple of examples, for push factors, you might want to leave an area, the place where you live, if all of the jobs are poorly paid, or if you live in an area which has natural disasters frequently, for example flooding or hurricanes or earthquakes, or you might want to leave an area if the area where you live is in the midst of war or conflict because you don't feel safe. Some examples of pull factors might be things like better access to services like healthcare or education, so moving to a place where there's physically more hospitals or more schools. You might move to a place because there's more jobs on offer, or you might move to a location because that's where the rest of your family live and you want to move to be with your family. Now, can you create a table with 2 columns like the one below in your exercise book or on your paper? So one column needs to say push factors and the other column needs to say pull factors, and about a third or a half of a page should be enough room for you to do this task. So pause the video now and draw that table out. Now, at the bottom of the screen you can see 4 different images, and these all represent 4 different pull factors that might have attracted the man in the video to want to come to the UK. The developing task is to work out what the 4 factors are using the images and add them to the pull column in your table. So you should have 4 pull factors based on the 4 images. For the secure activity, you need to explain each factor in a sentence. So you need to do the same thing, but rather than just writing out the factors, you need to explain each of them in your table with a sentence. So for example, you might start one of your sentences off with, free healthcare provided by the NHS might have attracted the man to the UK because, and you would explain why. For the mastered task, you're going to complete the secure activity and then you're going to rank these 4 pull factors in the order that you think they might have influenced the man. So for example, number 1 is the biggest reason why you think the man might have wanted to migrate to the UK, and number 4 would be the smallest reason, the one that perhaps influenced him the least. Can you pause the video and complete that task, please? Now, for the second part of this task 3, you are going to watch the rest of the video. And whilst you're doing this, I would like you to add 3 examples of push factors that might have made the man want to leave his home country of Mozambique or the other African countries where he had worked. So using the video, using what you hear in the video, can you add 3 examples of push factors that might have influenced his decision? The mastered task is to try and create 2 of your own push factors that are not shown in the video based on your own knowledge. So at the end of watching the video, you should have a full table with push and pull factors that might have influenced his decision to try and reach the UK. So I'm going to start the video from where we left off. You're listening for 3 push factors and 2 of your own if you're doing the mastered task. Here we go.
It's written with a G.
In 2010, she was living in South Africa with her then husband and her father.
When I lived in Cape Town, he was my gardener and also taking care of my home as well.
A man whose body was found in a street in Mortlake in West London after falling to the ground from the undercarriage of a plane has been identified. He was a Mozambican national called Jose Matata.
Joseph was a really nice man. He was a really good person. And he had a really soft manner about him. I miss him. He told me about his childhood and how difficult it had been. There were floods in his area in Mozambique. It seemed to be quite a big ordeal for him. He went to work in the mines in Mozambique. That was also very difficult for him. I asked him if he would like his life to be written down in a book one day, and he said he would love that because then people would know how hard it had been for him.
She remembered that in September he'd sent her some messages indicating he needed some help and he was thinking of travelling to Europe for a better life.
I really wish he would have called me just before taking the plane, so that I would have told him, don't go inside it.
We don't know how Jose Matada got into the airport in Luanda, but we do know that this is how he travelled to London, and he would have had to climb up as quickly as possible along this bit of metal and then into the wheel arch. He would have done this at night, so it would have been pretty dark. And I can't help wondering whether by this point he would have had second thoughts and realised that he'd made a terrible mistake. Now, the first major risk to stowaways comes after takeoff, because at that point the wheels retract up and fill most of this space. As the plane climbed, the temperature in here would have fallen to -60, the oxygen would have thinned, and then at some point over the next 8 hours or so, Jose would have lost consciousness. And then as the plane started coming in to land over London, these doors here would have opened, the wheels would have come back down. Jose, of course, still unconscious, would have been unable to hold on.
It's the sort of case that upsets everybody that comes into contact with it, I think, because you feel that they had such high hopes and they were obviously more optimistic than they really should have been.
I just thought, oh Joseph, what have you done? Why did you get into that plane? Why weren't you more patient? But we are Muslims, so we believe that when it's your time to die, it's your time to die.
The police here in London have been in touch with the authorities in Mozambique, but have been told that there's no trace of Jose Matada. That means that his family have not yet been found, and so he's been buried in this unmarked grave just a few miles from where he fell to earth. As far as we know, his family have no idea about what's happened to him. Perhaps they're still waiting for that call to say that he's safe, that he's found that better life that he was looking for.
The day of your death is written before you were born, so it's his resting place. I take comfort in thinking that his soul can find peace.
Now you've seen the whole video and very nearly finished the lesson, I want you to consider this last question. Overall, which set of factors do you think influenced his decision the most? So do you think it was the push factors, which were the overall reason why he decided to try and reach the UK in this way? Or do you think it was the pull factors that were attracting him to the UK that influenced his decision the most? Which set of factors was more responsible? And I'd like you to explain your decision in a sentence, please. So pause the video to complete that now. So Year 8, there are a couple of things we want you to upload for this lesson. The first is a picture of your whiteboard when you made your prediction about what you thought had happened to this man. So can you take a picture of your whiteboard with your prediction and any of the notes that you made? And secondly, can you take a picture or a screenshot of your completed table showing the push and pull factors and your summary sentence which explains whether you think the push factors or the pull factors were more responsible for his decision. So those are the two things that we want you to upload to Class Charts, please. Hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. Really well done for completing it.